Greetings, everyone. It is time once again for Brony Debates Live. It's also once again just Heather and I tonight. How are you doing tonight, Heather?
I'm pretty dang chill.
Good, good. So, this was another one of your suggestions. You came up with a lot of good ones. So yeah, we're just tackling that tonight. Is attention-seeking behavior inherently toxic? What made you want to talk about this one?
Well, I guess I was just I was thinking about it because I don't know, I go through social media a lot and people are like, gosh, don't you just hate this blatant attention seeking behavior? And like defining that, that's pretty broad. And there are different reasons for attention seeking. I feel like you just can't just like generalize. And it goes down to this thing that I always hate. I hate it when people just generalize all behavior and all people under one thing. Like people who show attention-seeking behaviors are inherently toxic. I think that's false, but I see that people have a case to the contrary, so I wanted to explore this a little more.
Alrighty then. So, with that being in mind, let's shout out the patrons real quick because we are very grateful to everybody who supports the channel monetarily, especially the $10 and up tiers such as yourself, Heather, as well as Shady Oak, Sid, Autoknight, Emerald, Senko, DJ, Rein-Kun, QFlash, Billy, Alden, EasyModeGamer, Kanto, Mr. Sonic 31, Alicia Lynette, Zeta Z, Sniper, Niter, Calbeck, StarChaser, VentureCorp, Will Eisen, 7 equals 1 Heart, and Dark Malcontent, executive producer of Titan Art Studios. If you want to check out their work or see how you can support the channel and what you get in return as well, check out all of the fun links in the description. There's even a tip jar, the little mini-me on the bottom right of the screen there, if you have a message you would like to get read out live on chat by the text-to-speech program. Anyway, so let's start by defining terms here, Heather. What would you say is attention-seeking behavior?
It's pretty much in the name. Attention-seeking behavior is any sort of action someone takes in order to get, eyes on them or a reaction from people around them, which is why I don't think you can say attention-seeking behavior is toxic because it's just so general of a term. Attention-seeking behavior can be anything from posting a selfie on Instagram to riling up an entire classroom of kids by displaying just bad behaviors to get attention. So that's why I wanted to kind of discuss this.
Indeed. So here's where you and I differ in the definition, because I define or as far as I'm aware, attention-seeking behavior is sort of a subset of narcissism in general. So there's things like what posting you said, posting a selfie to Instagram or something like that. In some
Yeah, because
ways
when you
that can, yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, yeah, because when you publicly post an Instagram picture, you probably want people to see it. You want attention. That is seeking attention activity right there.
In its basis form, I suppose I can agree with you there, but that can also be a derivative of artistic intention. Like you're trying to show somebody something that you did. It sort of becomes like with something like that, becomes more like a parasocial of just wanting more people to see what you did, and it doesn't necessarily need to be about the attention, but it could be I'm going in circles here, but a derivative of artistic expression. But with attention seeking behavior, it is all about just getting the attention on there, and then that drives people to extremes more often than not, and you start seeing antisocial behaviors as a result of it, like just generally being willing to put down other people to virtue signal, make yourself look good. There's a whole spectrum there to sabotaging what other people are working on, or their projects. it So yeah, there's artistic, and then there's attention seeking, and I think there's a difference there, but you're putting the definition of attention seeking a lot more broadly. So, what do you think about my definition?
I feel like I guess you have like kind of a stigma that comes with the term. And I get that typically when someone say, man, someone's really showing some attention seeking behavior, it's in the context of like, oh, they're just being an attention whore or something like that, which that's why I think you should be a little more specific when describing people's behaviors, because attention seeking behavior on its own is a very like sounds like a very general term, like like it says it in it. It's seeking attention. That is an action someone can take. And I think at its root, it's a very neutral term. Like it has no good or bad connotation with it. When you think someone's seeking attention in a bad way, just call them an attention whore. Or just, like there's other terms you can use that are more specific. Because I feel like you're getting this broad term and really just applying a context to it that isn't immediately obvious. Because we don't all go into it being like, oh, someone's displaying attention seeking behavior. Because I could look at like a child who's drawing you a picture and be like, yeah, that's some attention seeking behavior. They want you to pay attention to them or something like that. That's why I'm saying it's not really toxic, because it's such a general term. Being an attention whore has a negative connotation to it, which is why, like, even if you don't like saying whore, I guess since you don't like saying whore, maybe you would like lean into saying an attention seeker. But that's why I would say like, hey, someone's an attention whore, as opposed to saying like, man, they're really engaging in some attention seeking behaviors.
Well, I don't know
Like
that I
neither are
personally.
wrong.
Mhm.
Neither are wrong. I'm just saying you're applying a context to it, like kind of needlessly.
Well, I don't know that I personally have ever had a problem with using the word whore, calling somebody a whore of any kind if I think they are.
Then just say
But
attention whore, Brawny. Call them an attention whore.
right, well, usually I do, but or actually not. Well, it's not that I don't like using the word whore. It's that I think narcissistic or sociopathic tend to be more accurate terms. So that's what I end up using. So here's the next question we'd have to ask outside of that is, at what point do we draw the line of connotation and denotation? Because the denotation is supposed to be what it actually means, like its dictionary definition of attention seeking behavior. What is that? And we talked about this a couple of weeks ago with fandom biases. At what point do the stereotypes prove true? So if people are using the term attention seeking behavior in a negative context all the time, even in professional circles, does that not make it the definition of it sort of that it carries that negative connotation, the connotation being how we as a society view the words or the phrase? Does that not carry some weight if everybody's using it a certain way?
I'd say, yeah, a lot of people use it that way, but again, that's overgeneralizing. Not everyone does. Like, I know you always say I'm the exception to the rule, but the fact is, I'm not, Brony. I'm a pretty average person, and I don't use it that way. I just say like, attention-seeking behavior, because it really just says it all in the name. I think the most important thing, because I'm not saying you can't use it in a way like attention-seeking behavior in that kind of tone. I'm just saying it all depends on context as well.
Mm-hmm. I do see Soren Skies in there. That's I do believe that's StarChaser, and I'm pretty sure he is in the server. So I'm gonna add him there. Soren, if you're still listening and want to get on the debate, if and hopefully I am remembering who you are correctly, I can definitely make that happen.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, if you wanted to be on the debate, you could just ask if you were on the server or on the Patreon. Like, I'm pretty sure you make it public, hey, this is what we're debating about, and put it out there. But anyhow,
Today
back
I
to the
forgot.
topic at
Today I
hand.
forgot to, and that's on me. But anyway, yeah, go
Bruh.
ahead, Heather.
But back onto the topic, I think we should just make a point here distinguishing what actions you consider attention seeking. Because I would like to know, like, if certain actions you consider attention seeking are inherently toxic. Because I feel like certain things that people see as toxic attention seeking behavior might not be as inherently toxic as you might think. So what would you consider attention-seeking behavior?
I think it comes down to the intention behind the behavior. So like if
It's hard to
you
know that unless you're in the person's head, but go on.
right, so everybody's going to know that for themselves. Well, and even then sometimes people don't know it for themselves because nobody with a, like a narcissistic or a sociopathic tendency is going to want to acknowledge themselves as being narcissistic or sociopathic. So they're going to deny to themselves that what they're doing is purely attention. But usually an artist will have that intention. So, oh, by the way, Heather, switch over to the Brony Debates channel on my server.
Got it.
Yep.
Anyways.
Yeah. So, as I was saying, that intention will be there and it will be reflected in their actions. So, for example, if they put something out into the world expecting a certain sort of response or a certain degree of response, and they don't get it, you're probably going to see them act out in other ways, or ramp up whatever they're trying to do. Like they might lash out at somebody. They might become bitter that they didn't get it, or and try to blame other things. So you see it in the extensions of the behavior, and after they put it out there of what they're trying to, of what they want and what their intentions are. So anyway, StarChaser has just joined us. That was Sword and Skies in the chat there. How are you doing tonight, sir?
I'm doing great. I just saw that you guys didn't have anybody on, so I just figured, I'd be able to pitch in every now and then when you needed me, if you needed me to talk about stuff. So, because I saw you didn't have anybody.
Yeah, I'm gonna own my mistake that I forgot to announce the topic and symposium tonight. So that's on me. I'll be better about that in the future. But yeah, this was this is what we settled on for tonight. So, StarChaser, why don't you tell us? I'm assuming you listened to the beginning of the show there. So tell us what you would define as attention-seeking behavior.
Well, as attention-seeking behavior, I would say we're talking about just like a general definition, like we're talking.
Yeah. So like Heather put it out there as a very broad term, and I narrowed it down to something that has more roots in antisocial personality issues.
Well, I think that if she was talking, I did hear her talking about, I think she was talking about like, as like children, we're very attention, you like to get attention from your parents because it's very natural. It's biologically natural to want attention from your parents when you're younger. But if we're talking, was that what she was talking about?
Like I was just saying, like it's attention-seeking behavior is just all in the name. It's behavior that is seeking attention or a reaction, which I think is fairly benign in and of itself. It just means someone is looking for someone to pay attention to them, and they're doing something specific to do it. Which I feel like that's such a general thing. That can be anything. It's so broad. It could be from posting your outfit on Instagram to like bullying someone to impress your friends. It's very broad. So I think the term itself, like attention-seeking behavior, isn't inherently toxic. It's all on context and the extremeness of the cases. So that's why I think we have more specific words we could be using, like someone who's narcissistic and like, I don't know, tearing others down to bring up their own appearance. That's someone who's an attention whore. That's why we have the word attention whore in our lexicon. There's just more specific terms we could be using rather than someone's displaying attention-seeking behavior. Well, what do you mean by that?
Well, I think, can I butt in here? So I'd actually say that so I would agree with you that there are different terms that can be used for, instead of attention-seeking behavior. But I think generally when people are using it, they're using it in a negative connotation, like somebody who is. Maybe they don't assume that they just assume people know that they're using it in a negative connotation. Like, for example, a very common attention-seeking behavior is to devalue oneself on social media and be like, woe is me, I hate everything, my life sucks, I don't have any friends. It's a very common thing I see on things like Twitter, and it always just makes me be like, What made you think this was a good idea? But that would be an example of like you're trying to seek attention because you don't like yourself, and rather than go through rather than try to address the problems of why do you hate yourself, you just want other people to feel bad for you. Like that's an example of a negative connotation of attention-seeking behavior. So I do think though that it would be better if you used specific things, like for example what you said, attention whore. That would probably be better.
And like, yeah, an attention whore, it could go either way. Like I think of attention whore, I think of an Instagram models would be like, hey, look, I'm a bad bitch. That's like some attention whore shit. I think the depressive stuff, I would say, oh, look, it's a negative Nancy, a woe is me, a pick me. See, that's another one we have there is a pick me, someone who's engaging in attention-seeking behavior that's inherently toxic.
Oh, believe me, I used to do that. I used to do that all the time. It took me a while to figure out, maybe this isn't such a good idea, but I used to do that a lot. And that wasn't too long ago.
I'll go through our phases. What are you gonna do? As long as we've grown past them.
It sounds like StarChaser's like somewhere in between you and I, because like if you had heard what I was saying, I was using it like I use the phrase. Actually, I rarely use the phrase attention seeking. I just tend to call things narcissistic because it tends to have that kind of connotation. Attention seeking has that connotation anyway. So I was asking the question of, if it has such a common connotation, does that affect the definition? Now, depending on the issue, I could go either way on that. It's definitely a philosophical question to ask that most people are going to have their own answer for. So what do you think about what I was saying, Star?
I'm sorry. So you're saying that Are you trying to that we just assume that it's a broad? I'm sorry. I'm not following what you're.
Okay, yeah. What I'm saying is, when people say attention seeking behavior, 99% of the time they're referring to a negative trait or a negative behavior or something that's detrimental to somebody. And the philosophical question here is whether or not that affects the definition. Like, is that the definition because that's how we most commonly use it?
I think it might be that because that's how it's most commonly used. I think it might be we just assume because, like I said, we assume that it's being used negatively. So I would say there are probably other examples of words in the dictionary that probably have a much broader meaning, but we tend to use them in specific. I'm trying to think off the top of my head what words they are, but I can't think of any.
Yeah, it's definitely, and that's why we probably use the term attention-seeking behavior so often, because it's just so general and it works. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that there's attention-seeking behaviors are all benign, that they're all like just innocent things. They definitely, like I said, there's attention whores, and that's why I say we have specific terms for that. But I get why people say it so much, because it's an all-encompassing term. It's easy to use. It says exactly what you think it says. It's like, oh, this person is engaging in behavior just to get attention. And sometimes they mean solitarily that. Like, some people just do anything just to get a reaction or just to get something out of it. But I don't like that it's all been like that, because they use it like that so often that we just think inherently, oh, anyone seeking attention is inherently toxic. Because you know who seeks attention a lot? Children.
Well, I don't. But you never. But well, actually, this is because comedians do this sometimes. They will use it in a negative context when they say, your children constantly need attention. But that doesn't. We're not using it in a negative context. I'm assuming they're not using it in a negative context.
And children do require a lot of attention. There's no getting around that. Children need help. Children can't do everything. Yes, they'll be doing something to seek your attention, but it could be just the child saying, hey, upsies, or hey, doing a little dance because you need to take me to the bathroom. Children engage in attention-seeking behavior, and it's not toxic. It's because they need your help, and they need you, and they depend on you.
It only becomes a problem. It only becomes a problem once you get older, really.
Yeah, so as it is, and you know what? Maybe even to adults, it's not always bad, because, like I say, the term is so broad. Anybody posting a selfie could be considered taking part in attention-seeking behavior, and that's why the term is so general.
I think it's better to know who the person is, though, because if you know who the person is...
So Heather, you're giving it such a broad definition that I don't think anybody really culturally uses that definition. Like, for example, you're talking about kids. Now, kids, that's with children and infants, toddlers, children, infants, whatever. I'd say up until age 13, maybe, that's a biological need, and as a result, that's how they communicate. So they need that attention because otherwise they're helpless. Now, past 13, or depending on the person, anywhere between like 11 and 13, and then into the teenage years up until usually early 20s, people need a different kind of attention. But by then a person should have developed the social abilities and a social circle that type of thing is just sort of inherently given as part of everyday interaction. And when you crave more than you need and act out in order to get that, or what might also happen is if people are developmentally delayed, or if they didn't get something that they needed as a child, that need is going to carry over and be much more pronounced when they get older into adulthood and things like that. And then it turns into attention-seeking behavior. I think as we're talking here, I'm starting to figure out where exactly I'm getting my definition from. And the line for me is when it becomes detrimental to other people, or a sign that you yourself may not be in good health one way or another, that you're missing something, so you are acting in a destructive manner to either yourself or to those around you in whatever the individual case may be, in order to try to get that. So that's where I'm putting the definition.
I get it. I get what you're saying. And I could compromise there that, like, there's a line that attention-seeking behavior can cross where it crosses into toxicity. And, I'll give you that. That's definitely true, because there's just unhealthy ways to seek attention. I just think, like, at the end of the day, is attention-seeking behavior inherently toxic? No, and like it's all context and it's dependent on what the person is doing. I don't think, like you said, it can also be artistic. Like, I don't think someone posting their work on Twitter or DeviantArt is toxic behavior. I do, however, think that the attention-seeking behavior, like, the drama llamas on Twitter who are seeking attention by following whatever controversy is going on in the moment, now that is some toxic attention-seeking behavior.
Well, technically, right. I mean, Brawny, technically you're exhibiting attention-seeking behavior because, I mean, you have a YouTube channel, so you need people to pay attention to you.
I was gonna touch on that because I am fully aware of the position that I put myself in with that statement. But here's the thing. I don't necessarily care. Like, here's the thing. Humans are social creatures, and we need that interaction and to be able to express ourselves.
Of course.
But
there are proper ways to do it, though.
Right. Otherwise, we go crazy. However, that will reflect in your attitudes and actions, right? Like, so when I started the YouTube channel in the first place, we're talking, late 2012, and I saw a freaking meme, and it was the Patrick Star meme of him going, he's just standing there menacingly, and it was King Sombra in the spotlight. And that was the one, that was like, okay, nobody understands King Sombra. I'm going to start a YouTube channel. I'm going to learn how to do this stuff. I'm going to make a couple of videos explaining, King Sombra, because apparently I'm the only person in the fandom that understands him. And it's going to go from there. I didn't even think I was going to live that long at the time. I didn't expect to get any...
That's a different story.
I didn't expect to get any...
go to therapy. We've been there.
I'm just talking in historical context here. I didn't expect to get any viewership. I didn't expect anything. I just wanted to get it off my chest. If someone happened to see it and interact with it, cool. I'm not going to lie. I do like comments. but I don't get fixated. I don't get fixated on my numbers. I do like comments, and I do like that this is my YouTube's a third of my income, right? It's nice. I'm trying to get it to 100% of my income, but that's beside the point. It's nice, but I don't need it, and I would still create even if I didn't have it. And that differentiation in the intention and my attitude towards these things is what separates me from the toxic people that I'm talking about.
So I would like to say, so Paladin Pony T just asked, Brawny and friends, could attention seeking lead to someone being taken advantage of? Well, you could certainly take advantage of, like, people who you don't even know. You take advantage of their general trust that they assume that you're just a good person, that you're not just some, wacko who's out on the internet trying to, get into a circle of friends that they probably don't belong. So you can certainly take advantage of that, sure.
It certainly could happen. Thinking of Brawny's YouTube origin, it makes me think back to mine, and in a way, mine could have turned toxic if I let it that way, because I started doing stuff on YouTube. It was exactly what it sounds like. It was attention-seeking behavior. I saw other people doing stuff on YouTube, and I followed that craze of I want to do stuff on YouTube too, and I want to make a whole bunch of videos and get comments and make friends with all the people I like on the YouTube channel. And I did do that, and I still do that. And attention is still a part of the game. I definitely don't want negative attention, but I do like getting comments and interaction and views and likes. So in a way, I have attention-seeking behavior. Could it turn toxic? It certainly could if I let it.
It's corrupted plenty of other people.
It certainly has. And that's why you got to have people around you who keep you grounded and don't let it get all to your head.
To be fair, Heather, and I'm gonna air out just a little bit of your dirty laundry here. You do sometimes get mildly upset if your views don't get to a certain number on a day.
How many times do you refresh the page every hour? It's not going up fast enough.
I will say I'm a person with a life, and actually with my new job, I really can't do that. So I may check it at the end of the day and be like, how did it do? That's pretty good. Oh, that kind of sucks. I do get insulted when you guys aren't watching videos of my kitties. Why aren't you watching videos of my kitties? He's right over there. He's on the futon. He's so adorable. Look at him. Look at him.
Look at it.
We don't want to affirm your attention-seeking behavior and have you turn toxic.
Why can't you just love my kitties? How do I know you love them if you're not interacting? How do I know you love them if you're not watching it, if you're not liking, if you're not commenting, oh my god, they're so cute? How do I know? See, attention-seeking behavior can be inherently toxic. The thing is, and I would like to argue that though I do get disappointed and I complain a little bit, I still don't let that infect other parts of my life. I'm not making it an issue for other people. Complaining, sure, that's venting though, and I think that's healthy to get off your chest any negative emotions you have in a non-harmful way, and sometimes even in a productive way,
So this is this is gonna sound a little bit strange, but I would actually say that if you're Brawny, in your case, if you were trying to make this 100% of your income, this becomes your job. At that point, you either exhibit attention-seeking behavior or you die, basically. No, people stop coming to your videos. The other thing is, if you're just doing this for fun and you're doing the same thing oh, please watch my videos, you're doing it because you like seeing, like Heather said, you like seeing those numbers go up. Now, it's not necessarily your job, but it makes you feel good on the inside. So but if you're doing this as a job, I mean...
Yeah, now think about it this way, right? I've got my main shows, right? I've had the same 10 to 15 people watching this show since I started it in 2017. I've got the same 10 to 15 people watching the gaming live streams. The viewership has not gone up. I'm still doing it because I enjoy it. And the same thing with my episode reviews of Buck to the Face, Moral of the Story. Very few people watch Moral of the Story. More people watch A Buck to the Face, but at that point they're coming for me and my character and the funny reactions that I have rather than...
They want the memes. They want the funny moment.
Rather than the content itself. If I was attention-seeking, I would have changed to be more like your typical YouTuber with the freaking O face and the pointing and the thumbnail and arrows
the
with big
face.
I hear that's not going to work as well anymore.
Yeah, it's That's like what you've just described, Brawny, is 21st century humor. Look it up.
I could have very easily. In fact, it would have been easier for me to, transition my content to be more like, say, Sawtooth Waves, who got 1 million and, several million views with the most dog water takes and, low effort production that this fandom has ever seen. And if I was like that, my viewership probably would have been better. But I'm not going to do that because that's not what I want to do.
This is the attention span of the average human being. You got to have the funny moments or people don't watch, apparently.
Right. Now, by the same token, A Buck to the Face is edited very, very fast. It is
really?
Well, in terms of, like, how I deliver the jokes, right?
Oh.
Like it's just the hard cuts from, clip, reaction, another clip from another movie, meme, lip sync voice. It's like right up there, almost in the style of like Robot Chicken or Pony's Anthology or something like that. But it has a personal reaction sort of touch to it. But that's just sort of my style and how I edit. And you
got to keep people engaged, or else they click off the video.
And there's not really anybody else in the fandom that has a show like mine.
I guess that's true.
So that's just because it's an honest expression of myself. If it was attention seeking, I would have put on a facade of some kind. Or I would have tried to be a good person if I was attention seeking, but I'm not going to do that.
You put on the face for the whole world to look at and see deep down. You got all these skeletons buried in your closet.
Exactly.
How many of those people have I known?
Well, I say that all the time in my videos that every facade will eventually crack under the weight of its own maintenance. You can't keep it up forever.
Well. Some people are really good at it, but like that might be mostly true.
Mm. Or maybe I would have switched over into Minecraft content.
Oh, yes. Fortnite.
Who would do that? No one I know does that.
Fortnite dances. God.
Yeah. Harriman, you are literally the only person who thinks I'm a good person. Realize that you're wrong.
I think you're a good person too. At least from what I know. I mean, again, I don't know everything about you, so.
The kiddies think you're the best person in the world.
Exactly, and the young minds. You've captured the hearts and minds of the young. That's all that really matters in the end, because they're the future generation.
Oh, I was talking about my cats.
Oh, I thought you said the kids.
The kiddies do.
Yeah, I don't have kids. Sweet God Almighty. Let's hope that never happens. So, StarChaser, you had said in the chat that you had a lot of experience with this kind of thing. What sort of experience are you talking about here?
Well, negative attention-seeking behavior, because I did we talk about the Heather, what was the term you used for people who are like the ultra super depressed person?
I think I used a couple of things. Negative Nancy's, pick-me's.
Right. Yeah, I was one of those people because my life sucked. At least I thought my life sucked. I mean, I lived in a nice house and I had parents who loved me, but like, I just, I didn't have friends and I was really bad at making friends. So I just thought, if I just act pathetic enough, eventually somebody will just love me. But the reality was that's not how you make friends. Don't do that, kids. It's a very bad thing. If you act pathetic and act like you're sad all the time, people are just going to be like, dude, what's wrong with you? Like, go get help.
Admittedly, yeah, I've seen a lot of that too, and it is really exhausting to deal with. And I dealt with that a lot in my adolescence, and even with some boyfriends I had back in the day, they would just, it was basically insult behavior where I felt guilt-tripped sometimes to interacting with them and keeping up with people because, you're afraid they'll do something rash if you stop giving them the attention that they demand of you. And that is inherently toxic behavior. Like these days, if I have something like that, if someone's basically threatening themselves, being like, I'm going to do something, Jack, if you don't pay attention to me, I'd be like, okay, get help. You're not my responsibility.
Yeah, I used to do that so much to people. It actually got me banned off a few servers, Discord servers that I was a part of. But I learned eventually there was a guy, and I credit him with changing my whole philosophy. And if you've ever heard of him, he's Aeon Dreams. You've heard of him, I'm sure, right?
Yeah, I know
Oh
about him.
yeah, I think I know that guy.
He did a video. I can't remember what it was called, but essentially the video's whole concept was like everything, like your negative emotions that you feel, a lot of them, they're not real, they're delusions, and if you allow them to take control of you, it's going to wreck your life and you're going to end up sad and alone. So you just got to convince yourself this isn't real. You got to go out and make changes in your life. And I credit him with changing my whole philosophy on that subject. So I don't do that anymore because I also discovered, over time people generally want to stop hanging out with you when they realize that you're this negative Nancy, as Heather would put it.
Yeah, it's just and like you're not alone. A lot of people take that into adulthood. I remember it was at an old place I used to work at in a different state, so this person will never hear about it. But she was a big negative Nancy, and I'll call her Nancy, and she just always had the biggest woe is me attitude to everything. There was always something wrong with her life. There was always something happening to her. And I'll give her this. Sometimes she seemed kind of unlucky, but in hindsight, it was just a little too convenient. It's just there was always something. Everything was too stressful for her. She needed someone at her side all the time. And honestly, outside of work, I was glad I didn't have contact with her because I couldn't stand her.
Yeah. I have a friend who I've been talking to for like 6 years, honestly, and that was before like I changed my whole negative Nancy attitude. So he put up with a lot of crap. I'm honestly shocked that we still like play games and talk together. It's amazing. He is a really good friend.
Yeah, you really got to keep those ones next to you that are with you through thick and thin,
So it
sorry,
may, if we're sticking with a broad definition of the term attention-seeking behavior, then it's not inherently toxic, but it still very often leads to toxic behavior, which I think at the very least people need to be aware of in themselves so they have a chance of avoiding it.
Yes.
I would say yes and I say this a million times, everything follows this rule of moderation. Too much of something is bad. That's just the way the world is. You need balance. You need that zen, the yin and yang.
Right,
because there's plenty of examples of attention-seeking behavior that aren't toxic traits. Like just people posting their art, posting their progress, looking to get insight on things they do. Those are all attention-seeking
or commissions.
Habits, but they're not. Yeah, and those aren't inherently bad. It's helping them make a living. It's helping them get better at their craft. There is plenty of positive examples of attention-seeking behavior that are perfectly fine to take part of. And it's just when people try to go to extremes. And it's just everything is like that. When you take something to the extreme, of course it's bad. Like anything you do can turn toxic if you're doing too much of it. Like there's very few things I can think of that don't turn bad if you're doing it so much.
Oh, believe me, video games, that was one. I used to play them way too much.
Yeah, it's going to excess. It's like if you just stop being extreme, guys. Just chill out and do everything in moderation. You love cooking? Great. Don't cook every day. Maybe eat some leftovers sometimes, otherwise you're gonna waste a lot of food. You like posting selfies? Cool. Maybe not post every hour of every day, every outfit you have that you're changing into.
That's you know what? I think I just realized something. I think what the reason why people end up getting into this might be going off the topic a little bit, but I think the reason why people end up doing these things way too much is because they enjoy it and they feel like it's their only, and this was my case, like the only thing I enjoyed for like the period where I was like the negative person was playing video games, and I loved playing them so much because they made me feel good, and I felt like they were the only thing that could make me feel good. So ergo, I gotta keep playing it because otherwise I feel like garbage, and that's the same thing I'd say with any other thing that you could potentially do too much of. I mean,
well, that's called
it's
addiction.
Chasing a dopamine. Yeah, that's chasing a dopamine rush. And I think that's also something that's been said. Like anything can be addictive if you get too dependent on it. It just affects everything. Like, go on.
Yeah, I get you. It affects everything. So, what is the definition then? So, like, because Heather's using the broad definition, and I'm using the definition where it becomes attention seeking when it's toxic. So
I don't think either are wrong. It's all context.
I think society and probably even, and at this point, I really do wish I had like a psychologist on hand that I could, get another opinion on here. But I would
psychologists are expensive.
I would be willing to bet that even in the professional realm, they use the same sort of language of this becomes at the point when this becomes attention seeking is when it becomes toxic. Either that or those two lines are very close to each other. So what I'm trying to find out, and I genuinely don't know the answer. Like, this is a philosophical question I'd love to hear more opinions on. Which do most people use? And I think from my passing observation, and it's not anything I've really paid a lot of attention to, I think people tend to use the definition where if they're saying attention seeking, it's because it's turned toxic.
Yeah, I can agree. I can agree with that.
I feel like you might just see that more on Twitter and social media because everyone has a call out post to make. I feel like most people would probably use it in the clinical sense, or maybe that's just where I'm seeing it, because the broad definition, as far as I've looked it up, Wikipedia and all that, is like attention-seeking behavior is to act in a way that is likely to elicit attention, which again, very broad. And that's
that's Wikipedia. That's your first problem. I mean, don't trust everything Wikipedia says.
Just saying that its definition of itself is just so
I get
broad.
It.
And I'm trying to say that if you want to define something, a behavior as toxic, like, yeah, you could say this attention-seeking behavior is toxic, but attention-seeking behavior in and of itself is not a toxic thing. It's something all human beings engage in. It's a clinical term. Like, it's how you can say, what's another term that people misconstrue in the same way? Because
I'm trying to think.
A psychologist would say, like, yeah, your child's engaging in just some attention-seeking behavior. They're dancing around and doing stuff because they want your attention. That's not toxic. That's just a child who wants attention. I feel like it's like, because I guess I see it most often applied to children. And I don't see children as inherently toxic. Like, I might complain, like, children are so loud. But they usually aren't toxic little demons that want to wreak havoc on the world. I mean, sometimes they can be, but I don't think children are inherently evil. They're just doing what kids do. I guess we've just seen it in different contexts, and that's how we're coming to here. Brawny sees it when people talk about other people, be like, yeah, they're displaying attention-seeking behavior and they're being narcissistic and shitty. That's why you use narcissistic and shitty. Attention-seeking behavior, I guess, because I've been surrounded by children a lot in my life, attention-seeking behavior is just, kids being kids and kids wanting to play and wanting attention from people.
In my experience, I would say online, people tend to use the word attention-seeking behavior, the phrase attention-seeking behavior more often. In person, I feel like people use the phrase, like what you said, attention whore.
Yeah, you know what? Maybe that's the problem. Brawny's chronically online.
Am I?
That's why you see it. Yeah, you're chronically online. You're using the internet definition of attention-seeking. I'm using the clinical term.
I'm just saying that's my experience. I don't know if that's based in fact or anything.
Well, that was hold on. That was my question, is whether or not I was using the clinical term. I don't know if I'm using the clinical term.
Oh, well, no, you're not. I can tell you right now, no, you're not. Because when you look up attention-seeking behavior, there's articles and articles about, like, this is what this attention-seeking behavior means.
And you know something, Heather, and I'll give you this point to add on to what you're saying as well. We know that whoever wrote that Wikipedia is not exhibiting attention-seeking behavior because those edits are made anonymously.
You don't even know who the person is.
They're the most unbiased person. But yeah, whenever you see attention-seeking behavior, like, in articles and stuff like that, it can, like, be talking about, potential toxic elements, but they're using the broad definition. I feel like, and I guess it means different things to us because we're seeing it used in different contexts more consistently. You definitely deal with, and in the past have dealt with too many toxic people. In my case, I've dealt with a lot of children, I suppose. So that's probably where we're seeing it.
So, StarChaser, what do you think?
I mean, you both make really good. I'm still sort of like I can't really decide, honestly. You both make great points. I mean, on the one hand. Sorry, you go.
Sorry, go on.
No, you go. It's fine.
Oh, well, I was going to say, well, in that case, maybe we're just both right.
You could be, you both can be right, I guess.
Yeah, because, like, it's not like anything either of us are saying is wrong, because we're like, yeah, attention-seeking behavior is this and that, and both of those are correct because the term is just so broad. I think the one point I might have with Brawny that's a bit inkling is that you kind of brush it with a broad stroke and being like, well, everyone, well, you don't say that, but you're like, most people use it in this context, so this is where it belongs. And I'm like, well, just because a lot of people use it that way doesn't mean they're using it all the most correctly.
Clayton Hess seems to think it's toxic in general, and yes, Palin, I do also feel like we are going around in circles. It
is because we can't come to exactly an agreement because, like, I guess in a debate you're trying to say that one side is right and one is wrong, but in this case, we're both kind of right. I don't think anyone's wrong here, but, to move on to something a little bit different, what about, like, how would we say... Where's the line we would draw in that behaviors that are seeking attention that are toxic? Where is the line we draw?
I think Brawny already mentioned that.
Yeah, the point when it becomes destructive either to yourself or other people, that's when it becomes toxic. So
being a little more specific than that. Like, specifically, like, when does someone posting their art, like, someone posting their work, when does that become toxic? Like, and... Like, there could be people who are just, like, tearing themselves apart, trying to put art, trying to get views and something like that. I can see that being toxic, but I guess I just want like a little more of a specific example, because how easy is it to someone to fall into toxic tendencies when seeking attention?
Well, I'll give you an example. When I first started drawing, I don't really draw as much anymore. In fact, I can't even remember the last time I drew, but when I first started drawing, like, I would post pictures on this art server I was on. And if it didn't get, like, a certain amount of, like, attention, I would, like, God, I hate myself. And we would be driven to that attention from that art piece. And people would say, hey, that's a good job, man. And I'd just get, like, that feels so good feeling in my chest. But then, when it didn't happen, I was, like, destroyed on the inside. So
exactly. That's the attitudes and actions that surround whatever you're doing will betray your intentions,
right?
What you're trying to get out of it. And for the most part, people can tell when you're just doing it to seek attention. Like, you don't actually enjoy doing it. You've got to be extremely skilled and talented in order to be able to hide that kind of thing. And then eventually you're going to get some kind of critique and it's going to wreck your whole worldview and ruin your day. It's going to destroy you. Yeah. And then, we've seen a lot of creators, well, they'll get that little thing and it just sends them over the edge and they end up lashing out and they end up destroying their whole career. We've seen it.
Or they say, they respond to that specific person like, F you, like, I can't play that drop on this server. But basically that's what they say.
Right. So here's another one, and this is where we're gonna get I don't know about but I'm gonna get really freaking controversial here. OnlyFans is toxic. If you're posting,
I don't even have an OnlyFans. Are you talking?
Right, if you're posting your lewds on OnlyFans, you are devaluing yourself as a person, and therefore being destructive to yourself and the people who consume.
So are strippers. Like, what are you saying? Like,
yes, they are. Thank you for reinforcing my point, StarChaser. So yeah,
but they're just trying to make a living. Like, we've already been over this.
That's like the same as a YouTuber making their content. They just utilize their bodies more into it. Look, I guess I just have a little more respect for sex workers, but I'm just like, look, girl, get that bag. You realize, hey, I have a great ass and that can make me some money. It's not sustainable for forever unless you're getting into some weird, really niche case. It takes a lot of initial capital.
Well, factually, that's not entirely correct. So I'm never going to forget, there's this, screenshot that's been floating around of an OnlyFans model saying, oh, I was in the top, I think it was like top 30% of earners for this last month. And this particular month was June. I think it was last year. And I was in the top 30%. I only made about $100, which means 70% of people degrading themselves for everybody to see are making less than $100 a month. So it is not now there's a lot of top earners out there that might be making a lot of money, and it becomes enticing like that, especially because sex work takes no skill.
Disagree. Hard disagree.
Okay, come on, man. I think you're getting too close to the issue.
Go ahead and disagree. Go ahead and disagree, but I'm not done with my point. Okay, so
all right.
Beyond that, so first of all, most people are not making a lot of money. Secondly,
it's true.
It does have, and we have seen it empirically, and especially ramped up in recent years, it has horrible effects on your psychology for yourself, your self-image. It has horrible effects on your ability to date and pair bond and be a good, be good for marriage and things like that. So yes, OnlyFans or sex work of the like is destructive and therefore toxic. That's my point.
Someone brought up a person.
Can I say something?
Okay, yeah, sorry, yeah.
I was going to say, this is turning into a completely different debate, so we should probably shelve this. But I'm going to say, it is not easy to be an OnlyFans model. It's hard to be hot. It's hard to stay in shape. It's hard to get attention. It's as hard as being a YouTuber is. You got to get that initial audience and a lot of people who want to see your ass. And, not everyone finds being an OnlyFans model degrading. Some people are proud of their bodies and are okay with people seeing it. I can understand from your perspective why it seems degrading, because you're a pretty traditional kind of dude. It doesn't make sense to you. But this is kind of a modern thing, and some people are just open with their sexuality and things like that. I think this is another topic where you're just going to have a certain bias to it, and that you can have your opinions about it. But I feel like also the thing you're saying about them not making as much money as they think. Yeah, totally. I bet a lot of OnlyFans models aren't making that much. It's again like YouTubers. Not every YouTuber is making a whole bunch of money. Like that's like the top percentage of YouTubers who are making have millions of subscribers and stuff. It's like not making a lot of money is like a systemic problem with like the website and things like that. It's the same thing. Yeah, and the only reason it has like all these negative connotations you're bringing up is really in the trad minds, like in the traditional minds of our society, which I gotta say are kind of fizzling out. There's just more and more people who are just okay with a lot more. What you think about that is a completely different topic. But back to the topic at hand, I had something that I wanted to bring up. And I want to say this because we were always like, oh, is attention-seeking behavior inherently toxic? It's not, but I'll give you this. It usually is like on a bullet point list of symptoms people with overarching issues can have, like people with anxiety or depression can engage in attention-seeking behavior because, again, they're chasing that dopamine rush of having people care about them. So maybe we could like kind of spin into something like that. Like also narcissistic people, like you were saying.
Part of a bigger issue, I see. Someone brought up whoever Dylan Mulvaney is. I don't know who that is.
I don't know either.
So
I feel like I've heard the name.
Yeah, you definitely heard the name. Dylan became a real issue earlier this year when he got a Bud Light sponsorship. That's the guy, like he was originally a Broadway actor, and then he decided like sometime in 2020 that he's going to come out as trans. And he's like, day one. He's the day one of being a girl guy, or day whatever of being a girl guy, and he's just really bad with it. Like people have been calling him woman face. Like how they had black.
I'm sorry I brought it up.
Yeah.
Oh, so, is it like someone who isn't trans really saying that they're trans, or like
he's certain.
He says he is, apparently.
That is he identifies as trans, but that what you just said, Heather, is a debate all in it.
That's a subject for a different time.
Yeah,
this is a subject I don't know enough about.
So that's the Bud Light guy, and then people got really mad and about him being a face of Bud Light, and it and cost Bud Light like literal billions. Like I think it's like up to 25 billion they lost in sales because of that, so that's who that. And Dylan Mulvaney's freaking crazy. So, yeah, it seems like the more we talk about it, the more we end up leaning towards what I'm saying, where there's just too much.
I'm not.
Well, you don't think you are, but you were saying it yourself a second ago, is that there's a lot, like we see more people exhibiting toxic behaviors when they're seeking attention than not.
Brawny appears to be passive aggressively winning this argument.
I don't think so. Strong disagree. Like I said, it's a very broad term. It's used in a lot of clinical senses. And yes, it can be a symptom of a larger problem. I'll give you that people list it down as a symptom. You know what other things people list as, like, there's tons of things that can be considered symptoms that are just benign things that you wouldn't think twice about as a symptom of something larger. Like someone having self-esteem issues is a I can't speak anymore, is a symptom of like abuse. But like self-esteem in and of itself isn't like a toxic trait. It's just sometimes a little problem that people struggle with. I'm just saying, I think I'm right too, that it's a very broad term that can be like benign or completely neutral. It's what context you find it in that just like it determines whether it's toxic or not.
So, unless StarChaser would like to add or take away from anything, we can probably get into audience participation here. Star, what do you think?
No, I feel like I was glad I was on here, but I feel like I'm just a witness, sort of. I'm like hearing both of the. You are like, I am like the person you are trying to convince. And I feel like you have both made a little bit from column A and a little bit from column B. You know, that's what I feel like we've arrived at.
Let me take a minute here to restate the mission of this show. The show is called Brony Debates, and that's just not necessarily because we got bronies talking to each other. Bronies are, at least they're supposed to be, about friendship.
Strange people. Oh,
yeah, they're supposed to be about friendship. How successful we are at it is a topic for another time. But debates are. They're about comparing notes. They're about learning. They're about solving problems. Again, at least they should be. Whether or not people succeed at that or come in with, pure intentions is another matter entirely. I don't believe you necessarily win a debate unless somebody happens to change their mind. But the goal of the debate is not to change the mind. It's to learn about each other.
On the next Brony Debates... how smart is the average brony?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh man, I don't know.
I've been going through it listen, I've been going through it with some people the last couple of weeks, and right now I'm sort of doubting things in terms of whether or not this fandom has the potential that I see in it, but I'm sure this too shall pass. But Heather, what were you saying?
I had two things. For one, I like that through you, I've learned that there's because for most of my life, debating was synonymous with arguing. It was two people yelling at each other, angry that the other person isn't doing things their way. It was like almost synonymous to me for a while. So I was just like, debates, that sounds terrible. I have to argue with someone for like 10 or 30 minutes. That sounds stupid. I don't like arguing with people because arguing implies conflict. This isn't exactly like that. And I'm not saying you should always avoid confrontation or conflict, or that's just a part of life. But an argument, I feel like, is more mindless and belligerent, and no one's really listening. They're just like yelling at each other.
Yeah.
I like to put into it that like you shouldn't be like when you're in a conversation with someone, you shouldn't just be waiting for your turn to talk. You should be actively listening. I know there's points where we want to interject because we feel like someone's misrepresenting us. Like I might have done it a few times in this debate where like I'm trying to inject like being like, wait, I didn't say that. Wait, you're not getting my point. Which brings me to another thing, Brawny. Can you like put a button on this Discord thing where like it's a like I'm holding my hand up button so that like when I want to tell you something, so I don't feel like I have to jump in at one point. Because like I think like sometimes during debates I kind of have something I want to say that's relevant to what's being said, but I don't want to interrupt. But I feel like it's the only way I can be like, hey, wait a minute, you're actually not considering this, or like, hey, you forgot this. So it'd be cool if there was like a button where it's like, hey, Heather's holding her hand because she has something to say about this, because I'm not in the room and you can't physically see me holding my hand.
You know
That's
something?
an interesting point.
That is a really good suggestion, and I will straight up look into getting something like that implemented, like tonight. But yeah, my goal is to learn about people and issues and solve the problem, hopefully, and I do that all the time on this show. You guys have seen me all the time when I admit I'm wrong or when I learn something, and it's not even about being friends despite our differences, or it's, let me back up just a little bit. It's about learning how to disagree and be able to be around each other despite our differences, and not even to be friends despite our differences, but to be friends because we are different, and that we collectively, through actual intellectual honesty and open-mindedness, can improve ourselves and the society around us. That is the mission of this show. So with that being said, audience participation. Did you guys see anything in the chat that you were interested in addressing?
I did see one. This was recent. It said Yoshi64. There was an Ask Reddit thread a few days ago where users were lambasting the worst of the Brony fandom, so I don't know. Well, those people are probably biased. I mean, I'd have to look at that, so... Well, I need to know what the Reddit is.
Yeah, there's a lot of... That would be a fun, debate, is just go through there and go through that subreddit with whoever is with me and talk and address the various posts on there and how true they are. Paladin Pony T said, Brawny, how do I know all of this in reference to, how do I know everything about what I was saying about OnlyFans earlier? It's very easy to see if you just kind of open your eyes. The type of people that tend to put themselves out for sex work, the type of relationships that they tend to get in afterwards. You see it all the time on Twitter. Oh, I was an OnlyFans model and now I can't find a date, or now I'm having trouble settling down. And it always follows the same sort of pattern. And I even read a study from, God dang it, I don't remember the name of the study, but it was recent, from the University of Washington, that surveyed sex workers and how well they were able to maintain a marriage after a certain period of time. And it was through the floor. There were strong correlations to everything I was saying earlier, and that, well, it's not like I feel like Paladin was implying that I go on OnlyFans or that I watch a lot of porn. No, I just kind of I study the psychology of these things and
the psychology. I read it for the articles.
Yes, because
they were the best part.
Yeah, because the reading the study at that University of Washington definitely had a lot of freaking God, I'm not going to be vulgar on my stream tonight. Be
vulgar. Be vulgar.
Was very enticing. Yeah, headline was very enticing, and there was a whole bunch of ads next to it for boobies.
So here's the thing, guys. I've been a Christian my whole life, and my primary directive, I guess might be the word for it, is health and wellness and family stability. So from a very early age, I'm talking like 14, 15, I've been studying psychology and what makes people strong and what makes strong families, and how do we avoid a lot of these problems that I kept seeing people developing when I was growing up, and then I ended up having to help them through. And time again, the traditional matter, the traditional family structure, and all that implies
The
that
nuclear
you tend
family.
to get, yeah, that you tend to get in Christianity is the best way to avoid 90% of the problems that we have. And it genuinely does have, it genuinely rears the most likely where you're going to be able to, develop. Yeah, you're going to grow up successfully and well developed and well rounded into an adult. And I kept seeing that played out time and time again. And the more I researched it, the more those patterns repeated themselves even in the study. And of course, there are exceptions out there, but they're exceptions. The exceptions do not disprove the rule. So I'm very focused on traditional things because that is what is effective and what works. And it's worked for literally all of human history, because regardless of whether or not you are religious, and this is why I'm Christian, really, is because when it's true in Christianity, it happens to be true in nature all the time as well. And when you see a correlation like that, it's true throughout all of history because it's wired into your biology. Is ultimately what I'm getting.
I want to interject a little bit on what you said. I get it. You've done your research and it seems this way to you, but I can't help but think with the upbringing you have and just the kind of person you are, yeah, you're going to find a little bit of that confirmation ring true to you. In my experience, in my own
still going to make
research,
bad choices, though.
Totally. Like in the happiest, healthiest of people have usually been people who really discover themselves or just more like really discovered their sexuality. It really has been in my experience. Like the best people I've known have always been like, yeah, I just discovered my sexuality. Some people are just so comfortable with themselves. And a lot of times the people who are sticking to traditional values, like uphold Christian values and their kind of doctrine and things like that have always been the more uptight and insufferable type of people. Not saying all are like that, and which is why I'm saying your view makes sense to me. And I'm certain there's plenty of cases where like OnlyFans things have gone too far. But and man, I really always get back to the same point of like too much of one way or the other is never a good thing. There's got to be balance in all that, because there are Christians that take their values too far where it's all strict. How dare you ever wear a low-cut shirt? You're going to hell because this, that, and the other thing. And there's certainly, you can go too far with OnlyFans, like all I do is spread my ass cheeks all day and try to collect a measly tip. I feel like there's a happy middle. I feel like a lot of the problems you see OnlyFans models and porn actors and things, like the difficulties they suffer are because of the society they're in and that there's still a stigma to what they do. I feel like we're going into a future now where it's not as heavily stigmatized. It's really been a lot of traditional society that has made it difficult for those kind of people to thrive. There are people who love sex, who are okay with sex, or just like sex isn't even like a very emotional thing to them, and doing it for a living is just something to do while your body is young and healthy. I just don't understand the stigma to it. Like for me, at least in my perspective, it's always been like, I guess that's what you do for a living. Good for them. They don't seem degraded.
That's what I'm saying, though, is it might not, it's stigmatized because of the effect it has on yourself and those around you down the line, and it is toxic and not healthy.
I've told you. I've said though, and if you'd let me finish, please.
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying though that just isn't the case for everyone. You're always saying, yeah, there's exceptions to that. And I'm like, well, how do you know what you're seeing isn't the exception? Because I swear every time you go off, I'm like, well, I've seen this and that, and this is highly prevalent. It's like really weird because I've seen the opposite, and maybe we're seeing two halves to a whole or something like that. I feel, and I'm not going to keep saying that, it's just how I say words, but it's like, I've seen that both of our sides are kind of true. Like there is some value in traditional values because we developed that way for a reason. It was helpful in the past, but I feel, but as we're going into the future, some of those traditional values just aren't really a big issue these days. Like, I see how people had to be sexually chaste in the past because we didn't have the protections and whatnot in the past. Like, condoms weren't as good, birth control wasn't as good. But these
condoms
days,
didn't even exist, probably.
Not even about lambskin. Don't ask how I know that.
Okay.
There's just, we are in a society now that can be more sexually liberal because we have protection. Education could be better for sure, but we have the education, the information available to make healthy decisions. It goes back to another thing I always say, everything in moderation.
So Heather, what you're seeing, I'm going to explain that to you right now. What you're seeing is the present when there are no regrets and people think that this is good for them. I see the future where the same people where the same people have all of these psychological problems as a direct result of what they did, and that in turn has other effects on the people around them, and they often regret these things. They're the same people, it's just at different points in time in their life. And if it were a matter of just the stigma, then those psychological effects would not be there. That's a matter of biology.
I actually think you're thinking a bit too much about the past, because the people you probably hear from are being like, yeah, because they grew up in the system where sex work wasn't very well regulated, and it still needs a lot to go in the form of regulations and stuff like that. But like under the system before, like they weren't being paid right, signing contracts.
No, Heather, I'm talking about modern times. In the last
future.
In the last 10
I'm also
years,
saying that I also mentioned the future. Society is changing where there's not as much taboo regarding sexual subjects. I'm not saying that people are just going to go walking around naked and fucking on the streets or anything like that. I'm just saying we're moving forward as a society where it's just not as much of a taboo subject anymore. Being a sex worker is just more of a common thing. It just is, like, I almost think, like, yeah, sometimes it can be oversaturated in our society, but yeah, and as sex work expands from everything from OnlyFans models to people who do not safe for work commissions. Thinking about the future too, and the future is a lot of people just don't give a crap what you do for a living anymore. You're making money, get that bag.
So I wanted to address Brawny's point about how Brawny, you said that the current behavior, were you saying like the behavior of current society is trending towards a future? Like, what were you were talking about something like that, like the current?
No, I'm saying the same people, within the last 5 to 10 years. So it's all very, very recent. The same people that 5-10 years ago were saying, I'm into this and it's the best thing for me. And then they turn around and have all of these same psychological problems and regrets. Just the effect of porn in general on the mind is horrible for you. And
I imagine a lot of people know that though, and they still make those bad choices.
They don't really. It's becoming more common knowledge, as in literally the last 2 years. That started to become more common knowledge.
Like people know alcohol is really bad for you. Smoking is bad for you. People still smoke and drink alcohol. Oh my gosh. So here's the thing. People are just in the last couple of years, we're finding it like it's getting more into the common knowledge of society that porn is really bad for you. And, but people like me have been saying that for the last 20 years. Well, JYoshi64 says, all I can think of is a meme of Zoidberg shouting, your sample sizes are small, your standard deviations are high, your conclusion means nothing. But I don't know if this sample size really is that small. He said last 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, and it's consistent of all of them. And it's consistent with people who did sex work in the past too. It's not a matter of stigmatization. It's a matter of the effects that it's having. Keep in mind, we thought smoking was healthy at one point in time too.
Oh yeah, believe me, I know all about that.
We even in modern times, we have all known a smoker who has said, "I can quit whenever I want. It's not doing anything to me."
No, but that's a blatant lie.
I think that leads it to like addiction, though.
Yeah, that's a topic on the next Brony debates. Addiction. Yeah, all of the things that
right. But that's what we're talking about here is people And I was talking about this with Heather, is a lot of people with, these antisocial personality disorders, they, they should be getting treatment. But the unfortunate thing about mental illnesses is that you have to first understand that you have one and admit that to yourself and then want to be treated. And with antisocial personality disorders like narcissism, sociopathy, and psychopathy, you're gonna, most people who have those are not going to even acknowledge that they have an issue, much less want to fix it.
Well, I've heard that psychopaths, it has to do with like their brain being wired like incorrectly compared to everyone else. So because like certain parts of their brain are not wired.
It depends on the case. You got to deal with the individual, and I see this debate a lot in psychological circles, and they're like, well, is it wiring, or is it nature, or is it nurture? And
a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B, maybe.
I always say if a problem can have more than one cause, it's probably a combination of both. And in psychological senses, that means you've got to take the individual and interview them and go through and use all your diagnostic tools and figure out which one it is, because I'll bet you the wiring thing does exist. And I'll bet you the result of your environment that warped something in your development does exist. My theory is the latter is more common, but you find out which one it is, and both of them have different treatments. And so you got to figure out what.
Yeah, there are people though out there who they don't want, like, part of the issue with mental health though is like getting treated and wanting to get help. But there are people who are like, I can't, like, this is just who I am, and they use it like as a get out of jail free card for whenever they screw up. That's a very common thing I used to do.
And can we talk about how hard it is to get help sometimes? Like therapy is
I was going to say expensive. I was going to say that too. It's not only expensive, but God Almighty, I have yet to meet a good therapist. And I'm not being hyperbolic with that. I have yet to meet a therapist who is good at their job.
I met a therapist who's pretty good at his job.
Actually, someone put in the comments like, do you guys know any therapists? And I'm like,
no.
Obviously not.
I know one that I used to go to, but
I know we know one therapist, Heather.
Couples counseling.
Yeah, I'm not gonna say the name, but we used to work out together.
Dr. X. Let's just call him Dr. X.
Yeah, and I wouldn't say he's good at his job. So.
You never saw their work.
Well, Dr. X, if you're listening, Brawny just said you suck at your job, so.
Yeah. I have no reason to care
Deal
anymore.
with it. You're bad, apparently. Okay.
Yeah, so, that's another thing, is I've never seen a good therapist. Cordero used to be on the show, and he swore by his, but...
He's not on the show anymore?
Nah. And
that's too bad.
Yeah, it is. I'm very sad.
What are you gonna do?
When did he stop coming on? I like.
This is getting a little too.
That's all right. Yeah. Later. All right.
Yeah. So, we had a political disagreement, and he didn't want to associate with me anymore. Which is
that's too bad.
Which is unfortunate. I thought our friendship
he made people. It's like going back to what we were saying. People have the freedom to make bad choices.
Yeah.
Not saying you in general, Cordero, if you were listening to this, but like, it's just
that's life.
That's
not what Brony Debates is about.
No, it is not.
Yep, that is against the mission statement of this show. But that's very long conversation.
Well, let's get back to the.
It does tie back into what we were talking about, though. All that stuff. Attention-seeking behavior, and it's damaging.
It destroys. I think it can destroy friendships, definitely, if you let it. Like we've already established.
Ultimately, Heather just has a broader definition, and my definition is slightly more narrow.
Which I don't think either of us are wrong. I mean, attention-seeking behavior can be construed very specifically because it is used clinically, and to be like, attention-seeking behavior of this caliber can be a symptom of something else. But again, attention-seeking behavior is so broad; it can be as simple as like a child trying to get their parents' attention. It's seeking attention.
And I'll say it again. My ultimate question that I don't think we can answer tonight is which one is more commonly used, you know? And of course there is that, and I'll say it again, this is also a rhetorical question. It's a philosophical question that everybody's going to have a different answer to. It's the same thing with the word figuratively and the words figuratively and literally.
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
Because lately, as of the last decade, people have been using the word literally wrong when they should be using the word figuratively.
I know, right?
And freaking, I think it was Webster.
Yeah, you got a good point.
I think it became so common that Webster added the figurative use of the word literal into the definition of literal, therefore changing the definition of literal. And because everybody was using
that
it wrong.
annoys me.
And
that reminds me. Sorry.
So if everybody uses attention-seeking behavior, and they're saying, if everybody in the world uses attention-seeking behavior and they're talking about toxic behavior, but attention-seeking behavior is not actual, it's closer to what Heather means by it, where it's a very, very broad spectrum of things. Does that mean it's wrong? That's the philosophical question that everybody's going to have a different answer to.
However,
everybody uses the word literally in a figurative context, does that mean literal means figurative?
Because like that kind of pisses me off. Literally meant one thing. Literally as in this is actually happened to me. I'm being literally stabbed. Yeah, a dude just stabbed me. That's the way teenagers fucking use it. It's like, I'm literally dying. That's the way a fucking adolescent uses it to be dramatic.
Believe me, I used to use that phrase all the time. I'm dead on the inside.
JYoshi64 says... JYoshi64 says literally is literally the most extreme form of hyperbole.
He's not wrong.
I'm gonna have a stroke.
Honestly, I need us to wrap up this stream. Number one, I gotta pee and I gotta stream in like
Paladin
half an hour. And two, you guys are...
One more thing is, Paladin Pony says we have gone very far off the road here. No, we have not. We haven't gone far off the road. We have taken these concepts to their natural conclusion by asking questions in the Socratic method.
To the extreme.
Yeah, Heather,
extreme.
Heather, one thing you learned tonight, real quick.
I guess I learned how you define it. That's a thing.
Yeah. And StarChaser, what'd you learn?
I learned that you guys really are at odds ends with each other, and you tend to argue a lot. I was thinking you would both be on this. No, I know, I get. I'm just kidding. But I did learn that, because I've never really been on one of these debates before, I've learned that a lot of times nobody really wins the debate. It's more of just people saying, hey, it's agree to disagree. It's not about winning, it's about fun.
Easy, yeah, but that's the point of a debate. There isn't really, because people do construe it that way. There's debate teams, and it's been made into a competitive sport in some regards, but debating isn't really about winning or losing. It's about sharing your perspective.
Having the conversation.
Having the conversation and saying, well, I think it's more this, and someone being, I think it's more that. But at the end of the day, it's an exchange of perspectives.
Learning how other people think.
You point out that, you guys seem to argue a lot. I will give you this. There's a lot of things that me and Brawny think very differently about. We're, in fact, very, very, very different people.
Well, I can already think of one, sex work.
Yeah, so back to what I was saying, it's kind of like how Brawny said before that, debate is best between two different people, and that's kind of what our relationship is like. We like each other because we are so different, and we introduce each other to different things and different states of mind, and try to work off each other and better each other. It's, in a way, our relationship is a debate.
I suppose dating yourself would be pretty boring now that I think about it.
Yeah, I've always thought that myself.
It's also, I can't confirm. Not, when you get in an echo chamber like that, and you feel like everybody has to agree with you 100% and affirm everything about you, that is not good for you mentally.
You start to believe that what they're saying is not true.
It creates some very toxic behaviors, and then if you get challenged by someone who doesn't care about you, then you just kind of freak out and make yourself look like a horrible person. Let's wrap this up. StarChaser, thank you so much for coming on. Did you have fun tonight?
I had. I was not. I wasn't sure I would have fun on here, but I had a lot of fun talking to you guys. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, thank you for coming on in the middle of the stream there. That was
I just looked it up on YouTube. I'm like, hey, there's nobody in here. This is weird. And I saw somebody is like, didn't you post this on the Discord page? And he said no. So I just said, hey, you guys need a third person. I'm here.
Yes,
it is really nice. You were perfectly in between us, so that it really worked out. We appreciate it.
I don't know if I would have been able to drag this out for an hour and a half if you hadn't been here. I probably would have been
hey, I'm glad I was able to help.
We were getting to the point where we were almost, I wouldn't say arguing. It's like we
How
were
does Dr. Wolf say
heated.
it? How does Dr. Wolf say it? It's good to be helpful? Is that what the phrase is?
Yeah.
God, I don't even
know. Yeah.
Only never mind. I almost made a really bad joke.
Forget it. All right, what were you saying, Princess?
I almost said something I don't mean. Go ahead, Heather.
What was I saying?
Oh, I've derailed the whole sentence. Good thing we're at the end. I've derailed everything.
Let me wrap this up. Thanks for coming out, everybody, and watching the show. I hope you enjoyed yourself. If you'd like to get on the show, we'd love to have you. We'll get you on the Patreon or Subscribe Star for as little as $1 a month. We're very grateful to everybody who supports, especially Heather, who's with us, as well as StarChaser, who's with us. There's also Shady Oak, Sid McConroy, Autoknight, Emerald Spencer, Senko, DJ Skywalker, Rein-Kun, QFlash, Billy Henline, Alden, MacManx, EasyModeGamer, Kanto, Acrylic, VA, Mr. Sonic 31, Alicia Lynette, Zeta Z, Sniper Nighter, Calbeg, VentureCorp, Willie Eisen, 7 equals 1 heart, and Dark Malcontent, executive producer of Titan Art Studios. Please check out all of their links in the description, as well as how you can support the channel and what you get in return. Have a wonderful night. I better see everybody, all 13 of you, in Heather Blossom's stream. She's playing Pokemon in a half hour. Go subscribe to her channel right now, and I'll see you there. Until then, have a wonderful night. Stay safe. God bless. Say goodnight, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Cool.